BookCast FM, bringing books to life, one cast at a time. Welcome to a new deep dive. Today we're tackling a book that really gets straight to the messy heart of building a business. Ben Horowitz's The Hard Thing About Hard Things, Building a Business When There Are No Easy Answers.
Yeah, it's such a crucial read because, so many business books, they focus on the highlight reel, the success story. But Horowitz, he gives you this, starkly honest account of the struggles, the really uncomfortable decisions leaders face when, everything's going sideways.
Exactly. And this deep dive, it's really tailored for you, our listener, especially since you brought this book to our attention. Our goal here is to pull out those core insights, the hard-won wisdom that can actually guide you as you navigate your own challenges. It's about showing that less glamorous side of leadership.
The really vital stuff.
We'll be diving into key themes like, the fact that there just aren't easy answers most of the time, how to manage through a crisis, the huge importance of people and culture, and, those intense internal battles leaders fight.
It's definitely comprehensive and pretty unflinching, really. And look, if any of this stuff starts resonating with challenges you're facing right now, we really do encourage you to grab your own copy of The Hard Thing About Hard Things. We've put a link in the description. It helps support the author. And honestly, you'll get even more depth reading it yourself.
Okay, so let's get into it. Part 1. From Communist to Venture Capitalist, Chapter 1, My First Job in Technology. This takes us back to Horowitz's early days at SGI Silicon Graphics, right? A big name back then.
Yeah, foundational place.
He talks about learning the ropes there, and this one quote really jumps out. I learned that being a great engineer wasn't enough. You had to understand the organization, the politics, and the game. For you, our listener, that feels so relevant. Understanding those kind of unspoken rules in any organization. Why do you think he starts there?
Well, I think it underlines a basic truth, doesn't it? Individual skill is critical, yeah, but knowing how things actually work, how decisions get made, who has influence, that's fundamental if you want to make an impact, let alone lead. It's about that, organizational IQ. Realizing success takes more than just being good at your specific job.
Yeah, that makes sense. And it flows right into Chapter 2, doesn't it? That famous memo, good product manager, bad product manager. Still so referenced in tech.
Oh, absolutely. A classic.
He draws this really sharp line. A good PM owns the what and the why, like the CEO of the product. A bad PM, they focus on the how, waiting for someone else to tell them what matters. But it's not just for PMs, is it? What's the takeaway for anyone in a leadership spot, whatever their title?
It really just boils down to ownership versus task execution. Are you driving outcomes? Do you get the market, the customer? Are you taking responsibility? Or are you just ticking boxes? Those traits he lists for good PMs, knowing the market, setting the vision, driving things forward, that's just core leadership stuff for anyone.
Okay. Then Chapter 3 hits you with that Napoleon quote. I didn't say I would make you a general. Ouch.
Yeah, pretty blunt.
Horowitz uses it to talk about expectations. Doing well in one role doesn't automatically mean you get the next one up. Titles mean responsibility. And sometimes you have to make tough calls. Putting the company first, even over loyalty. What's the message for our listener there? Managing their own career? Or maybe leading a team?
I think the key thing is realizing that moving up isn't just a reward. It's a whole new set of challenges, requires different skills. It means you need to constantly look at yourself, honestly, and be willing to make those hard personnel calls based on what the company needs now and next, even if it involves people you value. It's about putting the right players in the right positions.
Right, the job's about getting it right for the company.
Not about being easy, yeah.
Chapter 4, The Breakfast Meeting. This one's about how powerful honest mentors and outside perspectives can be. Leadership is lonely, right?
Incredibly lonely sometimes.
So having someone who'll just tell you the truth, see your blind spots, it's invaluable. That quote sticks with me. It turns out that is exactly what you need as a CEO. Someone who sees what you cannot see, says what you do not want to hear, and helps you become what you never imagined you could be.
It's so true because leaders, we get stuck in our own heads, our own echo chambers. We miss things. A good mentor, they give you that objective view. They challenge your thinking, spot the dangers you might be blind to. It's about actively looking for those truth tellers.
Makes sense. And Part 1 wraps up with Chapter 5, One-on-One. Horowitz really hammers home how vital regular one-on-ones are between managers and their people.
Yeah, non-negotiable for him.
And he's clear. These aren't just status updates for the boss. They're for the employee. for their growth, for catching problems really early. He even gives practical tips and questions.
Which are super helpful.
What's the main insight for you, for our listener, about these meetings?
I think the core idea is that one-on-ones are your first line of defense against future blow-ups. And they're the main engine for helping people grow. They need to be focused on the employee, listen to them, understand their roadblocks, give them support. It's all about building trust and keeping communication open.
Okay, good foundation. Let's shift gears into part 2. This is where things get intense, when things fall apart. Chapter 6 looks at why we prefer founding CEOs. Horowitz argues that founders often handle crises better. Why? Because of that deep ownership, that willingness to break the rules, basically.
Yeah, that almost visceral connection they have.
He does admit, though, that any leader needs to adapt, founder or not. So what's the takeaway for leaders who aren't founders?
Well, while founders might have that unique commitment, maybe more freedom to act radically, the principle underneath is about leading with that same kind of deep, long-term investment. So if you're not the founder, it's about cultivating that ownership mindset, really understanding the company's DNA, its mission, and being ready to challenge norms when things get tough. Adaptability and a bias for action are key, whoever you are.
Got it. Then Chapter 7 introduces maybe the book's central idea, the struggle.
Capitals is struggle.
Horowitz just normalizes those awful feelings leaders face. The doubt, the fear, the loneliness, that quote, "The struggle is where greatness comes from." Wow.
It's powerful, isn't it?
Why is it so important for leaders to just accept that this struggle is part of the deal?
Because leading is hard. Feeling lost or scared sometimes. That's normal. It doesn't mean you're failing. Greatness isn't about not struggling. It's about what you do during the struggle. Recognizing these battles are part of it helps you build resilience, keep going. It's okay for it to be uncomfortable.
Okay. Chapter 8 then digs into why CEOs should tell it like it is. Honesty, transparency, especially when things are bad.
Absolutely critical.
He says you can't fix a secret, and that people handle truth, even bad truth, way better than false hope. He even has that principle. Less trust means you need more communication. What's the core message about talking to your team?
The fundamental thing is trust. It's the bedrock. And you build trust with transparency. When things are uncertain, clear, honest talk, even if it's tough news, it reassures people. It helps them understand. They can even help find solutions. Hiding stuff, that just kills trust and breeds negativity.
Which leads right into the really tough stuff, Chapter 9.
Yeah.
The right way to lay people off.
Yeah, this is where it gets incredibly practical, but also deeply human.
He gives very direct advice. Handle layoffs with integrity, compassion. Be fast, be honest, do it once if you can, involve managers, support the people leaving. What's the lasting impact leaders need to think about here?
Oh, it's huge. It goes way beyond the people who leave. How you handle layoffs. It sends a massive signal to everyone who stays. Their morale, their trust in leadership, it's all affected. Treating people well on their way out shows your company's values. It shapes the culture long term. That last day really, really matters.
Following that, Chapter 10 guides you through preparing to fire an executive, another tough one.
Delicate, yeah, but sometimes necessary.
Horowitz focuses on doing it for the right reasons, performance, or maybe just not the right fit anymore. Be direct, be respectful, plan the transition. He mentions that gut feeling too. When you know, you know. That resonates, doesn't it?
It really does. It's never easy, but realizing someone isn't the right fit for where the company's headed, that's a key leadership responsibility.
Yeah.
The trick is to act decisively, but do it respectfully. Make the transition smooth for everyone. Waiting just makes it worse.
And Chapter 11 tackles something similar, but maybe even trickier, demoting a loyal friend.
Yeah, the loyalty versus performance thing.
Yeah. Horowitz focuses on how to do it respectfully. Emphasize their continued value. Try to preserve the relationship if you can. But again, he reminds us, the CEO's job is to be right, not easy. What's the guiding principle here?
You have to separate the personal from the professional. Loyalty's great, but the leader's first duty is the company's health. A demotion, if you handle it with empathy, clear feedback, and talk about their ongoing value, can sometimes be better than firing them. You might keep a good contributor, just in a different role.
Okay. Then Chapter 12, lies that losers tell. This sounds harsh, but it's about spotting those self-deceptions leaders use to dodge responsibility.
Yeah, the excuses, the blaming.
He pushes for honest self-reflection. Focus on solutions, not excuses. Don't quit, face reality. Why is that self-awareness so critical?
Because if you can't see reality clearly inside yourself and outside, how can you make good decisions? Leaders who fool themselves are blind. blind to their flaws, blind to the real problems. Honest reflection is step one to actually getting better.
Chapter 13 introduces lead bullets. Love this metaphor.
Me too. It's very grounding.
He argues for gritty, relentless execution over looking for some magic fix, some silver bullet. It's about hammering away at the basics. Can you unpack that lead bullets idea a bit more?
Yeah, think of it like this. Instead of waiting for one perfect shot, one miracle solution, Horowitz says keep firing lead bullets. These are the steady, unglamorous efforts, the daily grind, the attention to detail. Over time, those consistent efforts, they hit the target, they create real progress. It's about executing your core strategy consistently, not chasing fads.
And part 2 finishes with the very blunt chapter 14, nobody cares.
Huh. Yeah, quintessential Horowitz.
His no excuses take. Results matter more than effort. Leadership is lonely. Ultimately, nobody cares. You just have to do your job. It's tough, but what's the underlying truth?
The truth is just the raw accountability of leadership. Empathy is important, support's important, sure. But at the end of the day, people judge leaders on results. This chapter just highlights that need for resilience, for focusing on delivery, even when it's hard, without needing constant pats on the back.
Right. Okay, moving into part 3, which shifts the tone a bit. This time with feeling. Chapter 15 gives us Horowitz's core philosophy. Take care of the people, the products, and the profits in that order.
Yes, people first.
He explains why focusing on people leads to better products, which then leads to profits. He insists culture isn't soft stuff, it's strategic. Why is that order, people, products, profits so important?
Because everything flows from your people. If they feel valued, supported, empowered, they're more engaged, more creative, more committed to making great things, great products. That's what gets customers happy and drives profit. So, a strong, positive culture isn't just nice to have, it's the actual foundation for long-term success.
Chapter 16 is kind of a collection, some things I learned about running a company, lots of practical bits here. Adaptability, how the job gets harder as you grow, actions over words.
Yeah, a real grab bag of wisdom.
That point about setting goals being the easy part, but the tough decisions after setting them being the hard part. That hits home. What's a key lesson from this mix?
I think a big one is just recognizing that the leader's role, especially CEO, is always changing. What worked for a tiny startup, it won't work when you scale. So being adaptable, willing to learn, willing to change, having the guts to make those hard, maybe unpopular calls, that's crucial as things get more complex.
And part 3 finishes with a very personal chapter, the end of the line. Horowitz talks about selling LoudCloud, which felt like failure, and then pivoting to Opsware.
Yeah, real roller coaster.
It ended up being a huge success, but it came from what looked like a dead end. It's a powerful story about courage, pivoting, setbacks not being final. What's the resilience message here for you, for the listener?
The message is that, yeah, failure is often baked into the journey. Being able to learn from it, adapt, pivot when you have to, keep going even when it feels like it's over. That can open up totally unexpected doors. It's about seeing challenges not as game over, but as potential turning points.
Okay, now part 4. Concerning the going concern. Getting into the operational side. Chapter 18 is about how to minimize politics in your company. Horowitz gives advice on stopping those internal power games. Clarity, accountability, rewarding results, not just relationships. He sees politics as a real threat to execution.
Absolutely. It can paralyze a company.
So what are some concrete things leaders can actually do to cut down on politics?
Well, clear goals are huge. Transparent metrics, making sure people are truly accountable for results. And reward systems, they have to be based on merit, not who you know or how well you play the game. Open communication, valuing teamwork over internal competition, all that helps minimize it.
Chapter 19 discusses the right kind of ambition. He separates ambition for the company versus ambition for yourself.
A crucial distinction.
He stresses building a team with the right motivation, people who put the team first. Why is that so vital for a healthy company?
Because when people are genuinely motivated by the company's success, they collaborate better. They prioritize team wins over personal scores. They make decisions for the long haul. Selfish ambition, that just breeds competition, mistrust, and eventually it drags the whole company down.
Chapter 20 looks at titles and promotions. Horowitz argues titles do matter, they're communication tools, and promotions need structure, justification based on results and readiness. He warns against that myth that titles don't matter.
Yeah, they definitely signal things.
So what's the key takeaway about using titles strategically?
The takeaway is that titles used well-meaning, awarded based on clear criteria, performance, responsibility. They act as important signals, both inside and outside the company. They help define roles, clarify authority, recognize contribution. That can be really important for motivation and just basic organizational clarity.
Chapter 21 confronts a difficult issue. When smart people are bad employees.
The brilliant jerk problem.
Yeah. Technically amazing, but toxic to the culture. Horowitz is clear. Cultural poison outweighs technical skill. Values have to be consistent. Why is it so important to tackle this, even if the person seems indispensable?
Because one toxic person, no matter how skilled, can wreck key morale, kill productivity, poison the whole atmosphere. Their negativity spreads. You can lose other great people because of it. Protecting the culture, upholding your values, that's essential for the long run, even if it means a painful exit for a high performer.
Chapter 22 is interesting. Old people. Horowitz pushes back against ageism. He highlights the value experienced pros bring, focusing on mindset and fit, not just age.
Yeah, challenging stereotypes.
What's the message for building a strong, diverse team?
The message is, look past the birth date. Recognize the experience, the perspective, the stability that seasoned professionals can offer. Judge people on skills, adaptability, cultural fit, not assumptions about age. You end up with a much richer, stronger workforce that way.
Chapter 23 is programming your culture. Culture isn't just posters on the wall, right? It's built deliberately. Systems, behaviors, incentives.
Exactly. As he says, culture is what people do when nobody's looking.
So what's the actionable advice for leaders who want to shape their culture intentionally?
Be deliberate. Look at the systems, the processes, the behaviors you actually reward and reinforce. What gets celebrated, what gets corrected. Culture comes from consistent actions, especially from leaders, and the values you visibly live by. It's about making those values real in everyday practice and holding people to them.
And part 4 ends with chapter 24, taking the mystery out of scaling a company. Horowitz tries to demystify it. Focus on building management structures that can scale, train your managers, get systems in place before you desperately need them.
Proactive, not reactive.
What's the core principle for managing that growth effectively?
The core principle is anticipation. Think ahead about what a bigger company needs and build the management muscle, the operational systems to support it before you break. Investing in training managers, setting up clear processes, building scalable structures early. That prevents chaos later and lets you grow smoothly.
Okay, part 5, managing the tough stuff. Even more tough stuff. Chapter 25 warns about the scale anticipation fallacy. Basically, don't scale too soon. Grow just in time based on real demand. Don't get ahead of yourself.
Yeah, resist the urge to build the empire before you have the kingdom.
What are the risks of scaling too fast?
Well, you can burn through cash on people and infrastructure you don't need yet. You create complexity too early. You might even dilute your core offering before it's really proven, growing when demand pulls you. That's usually safer and more efficient.
Chapter 26 introduces management debt. Love this term, too. It's the long-term cost of taking leadership shortcuts, putting off hard conversations, not fixing organizational issues.
Yeah, it's like technical debt, but for management.
Can you explain that relatably?
Sure. Think about it like this. Just like ignoring messy code causes problems later, avoiding tough talks, delaying needed org changes, using Band-Aid management fixes, that all creates debt. And eventually that debt comes due. You have to pay it back, often with interest, in the form of bigger problems, lower morale, poor performance.
Oof. Okay. Chapter 27 is about the accountability payoff, making the case for a culture of accountability. Clarity, expectations, rewarding people who deliver. He sees accountability positively.
Yeah, not as punishment, but as empowerment.
What are the key ingredients for building that strong accountability culture?
Key things are clear roles and responsibilities, setting expectations you can actually measure, giving regular, honest feedback, and then consistently recognizing and rewarding people who meet or beat those expectations. Holding people accountable for outcomes. It fosters ownership, drives higher performance overall.
Chapter 28 talks about management quality assurance. The CEO needs to actively check and improve how effective the management team is, like QA for products.
Right, applying that same rigor.
Why is it so important for the CEO to be personally involved in assessing management quality?
Because the quality of your managers directly impacts everything, the whole organization's performance. The CEO has to make sure managers are leading well, executing strategy, creating a good environment. You wouldn't ship a buggy product, right? So why tolerate buggy management?
Good point. And part 5 ends with chapter 29, trust me. Back to trust as the foundation, built through consistency, honesty, and, interestingly, vulnerability.
Yeah, those 3 pillars.
Why are those 3, consistency, honesty, vulnerability, so critical for building trust?
Well, consistency makes you reliable. People know what to expect. Honesty, even with bad news, shows integrity. And vulnerability, admitting mistakes, showing you're human, that builds connection, makes you relatable. Put them together, you get that bedrock of trust, essential for any real leadership.
Okay, we're nearing the end. Part 6. What's the secret to being a successful CEO? Big question. Chapter 30 starts with the CEO test. Horowitz says the ultimate test isn't the numbers, it's, does the team believe in the CEO? Especially when things are rough.
That belief factor is huge.
Why is that belief so crucial, especially in a crisis?
Because in a crisis, people are looking to the leader for direction, for calm, for confidence. If the team believes in the CEO's competence, their integrity, their ability to get them through it, they'll stay motivated, they'll pull together. If that belief isn't there, you get fear, chaos, breakdown.
Chapter 31 looks at old CEO versus new CEO. Those tricky founder transitions, the need for crystal clear authority when a new leader comes in.
Yeah, avoiding the two-boss problem.
What's the key to making that transition work smoothly?
Absolute clarity. The outgoing CEO has to truly step back, empower the new leader fully. Let them set the direction, build their team. Any ambiguity, any sense of lingering control, it just undermines the new CEO and confuses everyone.
Chapter 32 asks, when you should sell your company. Making that huge decision based on logic, long-term prospects, not ego. Considering everyone involved.
Yeah, taking the emotion out of it as much as possible.
What are some key factors a leader should weigh objectively when thinking about selling?
Things like, what's the realistic future growth potential? What's the competition doing? Do we have the resources to win long term? And would a sale actually create a better outcome for shareholders, employees, customers? It's about a cold, hard, strategic look, not just gut feeling.
And then Chapter 33 follows up. How to maximize value after a sale. How to lead post-acquisition. Protect your team. Keep driving success within the bigger company.
Because the job isn't over once the deal closes.
What are some crucial things for leaders to do then?
Well, actively lead the integration. Be super clear about the vision under new ownership. Advocate for your people, their opportunities, and really focus on making sure the part you brought continues to succeed and create value.
Okay, final stretch. Part 7. The end game. Chapter 34 argues the most difficult CEO skill is managing your own psychology, that internal battle. He normalizes the struggle again, emphasizes emotional discipline.
Yeah, the inner game.
Why is managing yourself so critical for staying in the game long term?
Because the pressure is immense. The uncertainty, the tough calls, it takes a huge mental and emotional toll. Developing self-awareness, resilience, that emotional discipline, it's vital for staying clear-headed, making good calls under pressure, and frankly, just avoiding burnout.
Chapter 35 is a guide. How to hire a world-class executive. Deep vetting, cultural fit, and the CEO owning the process.
Super important hires.
What's a key piece of advice for recruiting those top leaders?
Prioritize digging deep, way beyond just skills on a resume. Assess cultural fit, really assess it, understand their motivations, are they aligned with the company's values? That's just as crucial as their track record. And the CEO, being hands-on, sends a message about how important these hires are.
Chapter 36 revisits selling. Should you sell your company? But this time focusing more on legacy, leadership maturity, long-term value, thinking beyond just the money.
Right, the deeper strategic questions.
What are some of those less tangible things leaders should think about?
Things like, what's a long-term impact on the team? What legacy do I want to leave? Am I still the best person to lead this company forward? Does a sale actually provide a better path for the company's mission? Even if it means I step aside, it's a much more holistic view.
Chapter 37 draws a line between running a company versus building one. Different skills, different mindsets needed. Founders might need to evolve or even step aside.
Recognizing the phases are different.
What's the critical awareness founders need as their baby grows up?
They need to realize the skills and mindset that got them started might not be the ones needed to run a bigger, more complex operation. They need to be willing to learn, to delegate, maybe even bring in professional management if that's what the company needs to really thrive in its next stage.
And the book ends with maybe the most memorable line in Chapter 38. If you're going to eat shit, don't nibble.
Classic Horowitz advice.
Yeah.
Direct.
A final call for decisive action in awful situations. Face the pain, make the call, move on. What's the ultimate message about leading through adversity?
The ultimate message is courage and decisiveness.
Mm-hmm.
When things are tough, waiting, doing half measures, it just makes things worse, prolongs the agony. Leaders have to act decisively even when it's incredibly uncomfortable, make the call, have a plan, and drive forward.
Wow. Okay. The hard thing about hard things really does give you that realistic, sometimes brutal, but incredibly valuable look at leadership.
It's such a strong reminder that, yeah, easy answers are rare. But by really digging into these themes, you, our listener, can hopefully navigate your own hard things with maybe a bit more insight and resilience.
Yeah, we definitely encourage you to think about which of these ideas really hit home for you right now. Which challenges feel familiar? Maybe go back and think about certain chapters or quotes that stood out.
And like we said up top, if you want to go deeper, really get into Horowitz's stories and learn more, please do grab a copy of the book. The link's right there in the description. It's a great way to support the author and get the full context.
Well, thank you for joining us for this deep dive on BookCast FM, bringing books to life one cast at a time. We'd honestly love to hear what your key takeaways were, or if this sparked any questions for you, let us know.